Welcome back to the Sacred Seat. My name is Melanie, and as always, I am joined by the so incredible, lovely, darling, beautiful Alana Hendrickson. And this is a little bit of a reunion. We haven't recorded or filmed or done anything together for a month because our dear friend Alana has been in the jungles of Peru, traversing. This whole podcast, we are going to hopefully dive into Alana's experience and glean and share and bask in the glory of all that is plant medicine ceremony with as much details as she's going to be willing to share with us. Of course, if you do not want to share something, you do not have to. We have free will, we have choice. You don't have to divulge all your deep, dark secrets on the internet.
Totally. I mean, I'm coming into this like a fairly open book here. I think it's important that we have some transparency, just so people kind of know like what plant medicine's all about. And this was specifically the Shipibo Konibo tradition with the Chaikoni tribe. So it was, it's got some interesting teachings that I've learned. So yeah, I'm happy to share what I can.
So exciting. This is actually our 10th episode of the Sacred Seat, believe it or not, which is kind of wild.
Yeah, it is. We've been doing this for how long now? What?
I know. This is going to be the last episode of what I think we're going to call our pilot season, season 0. Figuring out all of the equipment, getting the websites working and things on Spotify and all of like the logistics has been done in season 0. So after this episode, we're actually going to be taking a break from filming The Sacred Seat and publishing live podcasts for y'all. But there is going to be a bit of a repertoire built up. So if you have a hankering for more of The Sacred Seat, you can always go back and take a listen to some of the established and existing episodes. For those of you who do not know, we always have blog posts that are corresponding in some way, shape, or form to the podcast topic that we dive into. This is going to be, I think, probably just over ceremony season, over a couple months in the summer here. We'll take a bit of a hiatus. Alana is in Mexico and I live in Canada, for those of you who don't know. So she comes up in the summer. We host events, we hang out, we spend a lot of time on the land, we frolic in the forest, half naked with plant spirit medicines.
It is that magical.
And then... yeah, I was like, I don't know, maybe some people don't find that fun or appealing, but for me, I'm stoked about it. So we want to be really present this summer and spend some intentional time tapping in, connecting in, working on some alignment and resonating with all the good juice that is this work. And we'll be able to come back and deliver some fun, heart-centered offerings that are of deep sacred service to y'all. So we'll be taking a bit of a Sacred Seat break, but yeah, we'll be back better than ever after this episode with, continued chaos and deep spiritual expansion and insights that help us traverse the realms and become the most beautiful versions of ourselves and create the most fantastic world that we all know is super duper realistically possible and just around the corner. So let's get into it, dearest.
Deal. Let's do it.
I think the best place to start, as always, would be the beginning. Let's talk a little bit. I would love to know specifically maybe what drew you to participate in this specific kind of setup of a ceremony, the particular dieta that you chose to participate in, and if you are good to explain a little bit of the structure of what a dieta is, maybe for some people who don't know, what was appealing about this for you? What was the call in particular to this ceremony setup?
Yeah, so for those who don't know, I did all my training for holding space with the medicine, and my journey with ayahuasca has been solely in Canada thus far, up until this point. So I learned from a dear mentor of mine, Maestra Elena, and she trained with actually the same family. It's a different branch of the family that I went to see, but it was... it's been calling me for a while. The plants have been calling me to go to the jungle. And ironically enough, you can always make excuses not to go because you need like a huge chunk of time to go to the jungle. I was in the jungle for 2 weeks, and then there was some travel days on either end because we had to take multiple flights to get into the space we were. And yeah, it's like, I was like really resisting it initially. But I made this commitment. I was like, yeah, I'm going to go to the jungle. Yeah, I feel that call. Like I feel that I need to be there and I need to get this deep connection with the plants in person, not just through the vibrational aspect, which is what we were connecting with, and also connecting with the beautiful plants we have in Canada as well too. But yeah, it was funny because it seemed like the trip wasn't going to happen. It was organized. It's lovely. She organized it as a group, so it felt nice and safe as a container to go down as a first experience, to like kind of be all together, and we got to meet together as a group. There was 9 of us total. Ended up being 10 when we got there. A couple other people had joined as well. And yeah, it was, I didn't think it was going to happen. It came together last minute, and I got checked by the plants. It was like, no, like you said, if this trip was happening, you were going to go, you would make it happen. I was like, oh, I did say that. Okay, we're doing this. Let's do this. So it was a bit of a leap to commit. And it's funny because I felt like the whole group that was going kind of had that same kind of experience as well too. There was some resistance. Because yeah, like anything, it's kind of scary to dive in that deep, I've done a couple.
This is why we always talk about preparation, guys. This is what she's talking about right now, that like, oh, I don't know, or maybe I could not, or there's a certain level of intensity that comes up in your life and you're like, I'm going to go and do plant medicine. And that is a great example of it.
Yes, exactly. Right. And yeah, it really does flex that muscle of really like listening to your inner guidance and your intuition, and aligning to the medicine. And yeah, because we always have that spark, that reason. And for me, that was my initial intention. And then it kind of like, once I committed, it kind of evolved like it does. We talk about that too, the intention changes because I just knew I needed to be there. I have had a lot of physical ailments in my life, a lot of chronic pain, a lot of migraines. I've had a couple head injuries in my life. And that's, really shaped my life and my spiritual journey, I would say 100%. It's what has guided me into a spiritual space, and the spiritual space has given me the most teachings and relief, and it's become a very rich experience. But for those who don't know what a dieta is, I guess I can explain that first. Dieta is when we enter into a sacred relationship with one specific plant. So you can dieta ayahuasca itself, but you're not taking like the concoction with the chacruna and the vine. You're just taking the vine. But there's so many other plants in the jungle that are teachers, and these spirits come in and they teach us. And so you can enter into 2 types of dieta. One is just a healing dieta. So you go in and you have something you want to heal. So you enter in for a short period of time, asking these plants to help your body heal, help your soul heal, help your spirit heal. Or you can enter into a teaching dieta, which is what I entered into since I have made the commitment to walking this path. And with a teaching dieta, we go in, it becomes a lifelong commitment. It's like you're kind of getting married, so to speak, to a plant spirit.
Perfect.
We go in with the intention. I love the teachings. The center that I was at was Kushi Ayahuasca. And they're just so great. If anybody has any urge to go to the jungle, I would highly, highly recommend this family. They do a great job. They're very transparent with their teachings, and really traditional, like really, really hold steady to the traditions, but with like a very anchored, heart-centered space. Like there's not judgment. There's not any of that, which can sometimes come in. I found with plant medicine, it's very like fun. It's meant to be fun. It's meant to be curious and heart-led, and we're not going to be perfect. We're not going to be, we're going to mess up, and that's the point. That's a part of the teachings. So yeah, I entered into relationship this time. The plant actually came to me before I went. I was like, I had all these ideas of all these plants, I would love to dieta all of them at some point. But this one came.
It's a treasure trove.
Right? It really is. Yeah. And after seeing them in real life now, I'm like, I've got a list. I'm like, oh, and that like, it's like a lifelong thing that I'll be dieting these plants. But yeah, I ended up doing a dieta with Ayahuasca, which is wild garlic, but it's not actually garlic. It's a vine that has some similar constituents to garlic, and it smells just like garlic and tastes just like garlic. And so you begin with a fast, so 3 to 4 day fast with the medicine, where you just take the medicine morning and night. And you're also doing ayahuasca as well. So yeah, you have to do the diet prep before, and then you enter into this relationship. And from there, in the jungle, you become very open. And the most important space to pay attention to when you're doing dieta is actually your dream space. So when you're dreaming, the plant comes in and tests you, and it'll show up as people, as family members. It might show up as like a new lover, and that's a good sign. Or it might test you in making sure, oh, do you have good boundaries, and it explores your consciousness. So it'll bring up a lot in that space. We're isolated during that time as well. So I had a little tambo, they call it, which is just this little hut in the middle of the jungle. They bring you your food, they bring you, your medicine. And then we did have sharing circle almost every day for about an hour with a group at the Maloka, at the ceremonial space. And then every other night we had ayahuasca ceremonies where we would dive deep into the realms. So yeah, that is what a dieta is.
Beautiful. And I'm sure there's some variation in dieta between different lineages, but we are specifically discussing the Shipibo for those who are listening. Wow. Aho Sasha, you said, hey?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a vine actually. So it has these beautiful purple, they look like kind of like trumpet looking flowers that I didn't get to see the flowers. They were not in bloom. To be honest, the plant looks like a lot of other plants. It was really hard to identify, but I did find it a few times.
That's so funny.
Got to see it in person. Oh my goodness. Well, there's so many plants and bugs and animals in the jungle. So yeah.
It's true. You're in a literal jungle, one that is not your, you didn't grow up there. I live in a forest and walking around, and it's like, I've seen these plants for over 15 years, and there's still some times where I'm like, that's a weird shade. What's this one compared to that one? Why is this one growing here? But there is really so much information that you can just glean through the immersion. Being in the jungle in and of itself can be medicine. And I love the focus on dream time in particular. I think a lot of people think sitting in ceremony is where everything happens. And there's so, like with ayahuasca, sitting in ceremony with Aya, but there's so much juice and so much potent medicine that just comes from the existence of being in that intentional mindset of observation, of engagement, of observing nature. And of course, within ceremony, but it's beautiful how much can occur just fasted in a forest, fasted in a jungle.
Oh my gosh, yes, yeah. And for me, this journey, it became very clear that I was going in for a deep physical healing, and I resisted that. I'm like, man, I've done so much physical healing. I'm a naturopathic doctor. I went to school for 8 years, learning about the body, trying things, diving into things, and then I had a practice for 7 years, and so I've done the things. But there was the physical was very tied with the spiritual and the way that I live in my body. So this plant came in and really taught me how to live in my body, and it was surprisingly, for me, it was very masculine medicine. It was very, I always feel like all the other plants I've dieted 2 other plants, Bobansana and Noya Rao. They've been very feminine and very love and light and very like what we think of when we think about, I think, plant medicine and spirituality, the way it shows up on social media and everything. And this was very like the opposite. It was very extremely masculine. It really brings about, like, people traditionally would take this to become a better hunter, to really find their space in the food chain, to really like connect to that, like that challenging aspect of mastering skills in your body. And so yeah, for me, it was a big purging experience. There was a lot of purging. And we take other medicines as well that to support that too, to support the purging. But yeah, it really pushed me to my limits, to the point where like I didn't know what I was letting go of, and it was like it didn't matter. With feminine medicine, I find it's more like, oh, let's feel this, let's play with this, let's see, let's be gentle with it. And with the masculine medicine, it was like, what's your goal? What do you want? Okay, then you got to let this go. We don't have time for that. We don't have time to feel it. It's just, you just got to let it go. You just got to align to it, what really matters. It was really like meeting life force energy, like at the, like right at the interface with it, like really interfacing with life force energy, and that life doesn't wait, and that energy is like surfing a wave. You can't just like always hold the energy, wait, and unpack it. It's kind of like you kind of have to also like move with life, and for me it was torture at times, to be honest, and it was challenging. And then like, it finally got to a point where like, oh, like this is actually fun. Like, like I got to kind of connect more with that masculine energy of like competition and challenge, and like, okay, like I'm at my limit, but let's push a little further, and let's go more. Let's do a little more, just keep trying. And then it was like, pass out at the end of the day. Okay, now I'm tired. Okay, now you can pass out and you can rest. But then we're dreaming and it's not really that restful. But yeah, it was very, very different than I expected. So I wanted to share that because I think that a lot of people don't really realize that it can be like that too for you. The plants will give you the teachings that you need. And for me, I've lived in the feminine for so long, and I think I've really, I don't want to say mastered it, but I think I needed to have this masculine piece come to balance it out. So I'll be working with that and integrating that for the next, probably couple years.
That's a very timely teaching. It's very timely medicine. It's so beautiful to see how our internal experiences, I say this all the time, but the micro and the macro and that internal personal evolution with the collective evolution, we talk a lot. I mean, social media, spirituality, individuals, social justice, there's a big focus right now on toxic masculinity and what that looks like, and equality and femininity and fighting for rights and laws and structures and legality around those concepts. And it's really something I think that happens when we balance any kind of pendulum swing is this aversion to specific traits or lumping everything together as a negative thing or a positive thing. And with the intention of a lot of individuals to not cultivate or exude toxic masculinity, I think we do lose sight of the gifts of the masculine, of the importance of the masculine, of the need and necessity and pivotal role that the masculine brings to balancing out the human experience on a personal level, but also in the collective. So being able to trust yourself enough to dip your toe into the masculine realm again and experience the masculine energy and archetype and dynamic and have a playful experience in there, and to be rested and comfortable enough in your body to be able to sink into that and navigate it laterally without being in a fight or flight response or an aversion, or without that heavy resistance that can come with the past experiences we've had within specific dynamics, is such a gift perspective switch, right? Because it gives you so much additional information, right? Like it blows your perspective of a dynamic open, and it allows you to re-navigate some things. And I think that's the beauty of plant medicine in general.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Like a lot of my wounds are just so, I think a lot of women too, they're so tied up with the masculine. And, I have, father wounds, abandonment wounds, sexual trauma wounds. I have, I think a lot of women do. And, I didn't really realize how much, like you said, I had been really averse to it, like within myself. And it's not just outside of myself, but like also outside of myself. So yeah, feeling this and being in that energy, I'm able to see, like you said, the gifts of the masculine. And I have so much more appreciation for like my husband, my father, men in my life. But also I'm really grateful because, this abandonment wound has been playing out in my life for, I don't know, since the beginning of time, possibly, who knows? It's been there forever. And it's like, like I've been, I wouldn't like have thought that I was doing this, but like I have been waiting for like this masculine energy to just show up for me. It's like, it's going to just show up for me one day, but it never shows up for me. And then it was like, no, like you have to become that energy. You have to do that. And if you show up, then your internal reality will change. All of the players in your life, all of the actors in your life that are just reflecting back to you, your level of consciousness, they will shift. And so, yeah, I'm excited about that because it's this is something I actually have control over. I can't control my husband's wounds. I can't control my father's wounds. I can't make them be anything other than what they are within their own internal realm, but I can shift my own. So I have to be the man that I'm waiting for, which is like kind of cool. And it feels,
it's a beautiful perspective.
Grounded. Yeah.
And it's empowering, right? Like, I think we see a lot of play with the whole victim triangle these days. It's kind of where we're at. But having that perspective and realizing that you get to be these things, like these archetypes, and you can embody, practice, hone, work with, cultivate within yourself. It's like reparenting when we discuss inner child work, right? It's like, how do you want to show up as opposed to focusing on attacking other people or attacking the construct or the ideology or the archetype of what masculinity is. It's like, okay, if that's been your previous relationship with it, you get to reform that, reshape that, and change your personal way of showing up within those spaces. That takes a lot of obvious work and unpacking, but it's such a beautiful and empowering moment when that pivot occurs.
Yes, no, it is. I'm really grateful for it. I am still like it feels like I'm a brand new human. Like they say when you do a dieta in general, like you wear the energy like a cloak, and then it integrates with your DNA and your body's not even the same body afterward, you know? And I had some, like, you know, in some of my ceremonies, I really felt that. Like I was like, who am I now? Like what have I signed up for? What am I doing? You know, like but there was a deep trust as well because you know, when you enter into these relationships, they're coming from a space of love the plants. They're coming from a space of what you really need, and they want to teach and they want to learn and they want to have fun and they want to play. They want to be our friends, you know. They want to be with us and learn from us and learn and teach us and so yeah, like it's there's a deep trust as well that this is what's meant to be. So yeah, there's a lot of like letting go of just, I don't know, everything that I've been holding on to, of the constructs, like you said, around what I believed and what I felt, and it was a lot of yeah, I didn't really realize, I guess, as well, how much those beliefs really crystallize in physical form, and that's where for me it was like I literally felt like my body was being wrung out like a sponge, and this was not everybody's experience. A lot of people in the group, they dieted different plants, and some people had very blissful, very lovely experiences, and you know they'd have a little purge, and some people didn't purge at all, and you know, like it was like everyone had such different experiences, but mine was like I got the bucket and I'm puking and I'm on the toilet and my nose is running and mucus is coming out, and I'm just like, thank God I'm in a space where like I'm catching most of whatever is coming out of my body right now.
Yes. Oof, so relatable. Oh, no, that's yeah, the crystallization in the body, I think, is something that is not maybe focused on enough, and maybe not neglected or anything like that, but it's so those patterns become physical repetitions, right? We can talk about, Joe Dispenza talks about that all the time, right? Like when we talk about, repeating patterns, these are literal and physical neurological pathways that form in your mind. These things become imprinted and ingrained in our fascia that can crystallize literally in areas of our bodies, seizing emotion, freezing things in time. Our bodies are these just insane vessels that take everything that we're experiencing and bring them into the more dense physical realm. It's really a wild ride, and takes so much trust when you're sitting in there and you know that unraveling is happening, because it can be really hard to know yourself beyond the patterns that have made you move in the world the way you do. We are continuously programmed and patterned in both loving and beautiful and positive ways, and some that are maladaptive and don't progress and change with us. And it's wild to be put kind of in that observer position and be like, oh, I'm so far removed from who I think Melanie is, or who I have been believing Alana is, and the way she moves. And it's so quickly, especially in an ayahuasca ceremony, you can get a lot of perspective on who you're not real quick. Like your belief systems, there's a whole world beyond the way you think you are, which can be very unnerving. And I think that's the fear piece that requires the trust that people can have, that the fear of sitting in ceremonies, because like, yeah, that's a big trust. You don't know who you're going to be when you come out, because you are not your belief systems or your personality. There is a little spark inside of you that exists beyond all of that. And you really got to hope and believe and trust that it's there for you.
Oh my gosh, yes, you really do. And I think that it's like also you're fighting biology, really, right? Like you're fighting like your genetics, you're fighting the fact that you're programmed for fight or flight. You have to like, you kind of have to lean into it. You have to like be like, no, like I have to lean into this discomfort and not run away from it, which is our unconscious, subconscious patterning that comes. And like you said as well, like, I mean, masculine and feminine are very separate in the way we look at things, and the physical and the spiritual are also very separate in the way that we look at things. And it's like, you know, like that, like most people have physical ailments. I think most people in the world, you know, and they think like, oh, I do the spiritual work and then I do the physical work, and they like kind of think that they're separate, and it's like, they're not. Not even a little bit.
Well, and talking about how our patterns and our beliefs shape the way we see things, like even the way we automatically, like biology, identify these problems is like we are honed and trained through our evolution to identify problems and issues first for our sake of survival. So if we're looking at the way we view masculine energy and the way we approach spiritual work, it's like, this is a problem, this is a problem, this is the problem. And these are all the things that stand out to us in particular. So our biology is even honing us to look at a specific archetype, femininity, masculinity, etc., whatever you're struggling with or working on or unpacking. We find the issues with things first, and we have big emotional ties and power and energy behind them. And we can often, well, I do this all the time, I think humans do this all the time, we throw the baby out with the bathwater. We look at our ancestral work or our lineages or families of origin, like, oh, mom did and didn't do this. Dad did and didn't do this. Oh, the masculine has failed us in X, Y, and Z so clearly that we forget to see and have immense amount of gratitude or acknowledgement or celebration towards what the masculine has done for us in service to us as the feminine, or vice versa, right? It's so easy to hang on to these things our nervous system has flagged as problems, danger, trauma, big fight or flight response triggers, right? That it's just so wild that we have to acknowledge like, we're programmed to do this because we think the forest is on fire or the lion is chasing us. It involves so much awareness. And I think, again, a gift of the plant medicine space is being sometimes nicely, sometimes not so nicely, thrown into that position of perspective and being like, in the best way possible, you've kind of made this up.
Oh my gosh, yeah. It's so funny because I think some people can get really overwhelmed in those states in ceremony. And it's like, I mean, I've had my moments for sure, but like, there's also a part of me, like, I've done so many ceremonies now, like, I know the benefit. And I'm like, yes, like, shake up my reality. Like, really, just like, shake it up. Let me see things differently. Because it does, it becomes dense, and it's in, you know, I can feel it even now, you know, like as far as like coming back from the jungles, like I can feel that, like that densification, that settling into the shifts, but also like some of the old stuff as well too, really, right? And we, you know, like what I experienced in the jungle was like that's the ideal, that's like what I'm working towards, but I haven't like arrived there yet, you know. It's like now the work, this is where the biggest work comes now, is like it's coming home, is integrating it. It's like, okay, now I have to navigate through the density of real life and through the old patterns and my environment and what I've created around me, and do the hard work of making the shifts and making the changes, and catching my mindset, which I think is a really big piece with the masculine for me, because I just held so much resistance towards it. It was like, you know, like 2 weeks of resistance. I was like, fuck, I just signed up for 2 weeks of like feeling through resistance, but like, you know, that's still good medicine, you know?
Oh, that's so relatable, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what should we bring into this space next? Any specific visions or insights or any particular challenges that stood out as I guess a come to Christ moment? You spoke a bit about the resistance and about not wanting to be there. And often I think surrender is posed as like the opposite of that, which is so true. But were there any like big moments for you or big insights that came up and then you were like, oh, I get it now. Oh, I see. Oh, shoot. Those oh, shoot moments.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely with the resistance piece. I think like, this is like so silly to say, but I literally had to, I felt like the plants, like Ayahuasca, Shakruna, all the plants that I work with, you know, but I felt like Ayahuasca was kind of like, you know, the director of it all. I really felt like...
And that's the way the dieta goes, right? Yes. Usually when you're dieting, blah, 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 sure. One plant in particular, it orchestrates kind of your whole... Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, I really like every ceremony that I had, every day was just like all this resistance. And it was like I couldn't, like my biggest thing, which is funny, you know, talking Gene Keys, the shadow of distraction, is like I have so many distractions in real life. So it's like if I'm feeling a certain way, like I just change my environment. I just like, oh, I'll just go do something else. I'll you know, make some food. I'll make some cookies if I'm feeling really sad. I'll do this, that, or the other thing, you know, and then I never really have to fully sit with that resistance and discomfort. And so I really had to sit with it. And there was a lot of frustration and a lot of anger. And I felt like it got me to a place where it literally beat me into submission. Like I just felt so defeated. And the moment I felt defeated was the moment that I felt the life force energy come in. And I just felt like, oh, this is fun. Now I'm surfing it. Now I'm having a good time. Now this feels good. And like, you know, like I feel like I'm in relationship with my body. And it's like, it's like, you know, like when you're surfing, it's just like, it's that like that moment of like, you're like, it's constant movement. It's like you're constantly adjusting. You're doing this, you know, you can't like just like stop and be like, no, I'm not going to do this, because the moment you do that, then you fall, right? And so yeah, it was made me realize like how much that energy flows within me that way, and like that I do like kind of like put the brakes on things a lot, and like, oh, this is too fast, this is too much, I don't like this, and that's what makes it not fun. And but yeah, for me is like, I would love now to not have to get to the point where I have to be like beaten into submission or like so defeated that's when like that's how I can get to that space. So my goal now is to try and find that space more frequently, and I really feel that it comes with retraining my mind and my thoughts, because it was like the thoughts were what came first with the resistance. It was kind of like, oh, this is a lot. Oh, like, am I gonna be able to sustain this? Oh, like, when do I rest? Or like, when do I get to eat next? You know, fill in the blank. And
Takes you out of the body,
out of the moment, out of the body. Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
And so I had this this one ceremony that was really potent for me, where like I felt like I was just this little boy, and like Ahosasha was like my dad, and he was a hunter, and he's you know, we're letting go, and he's like, you know, kind of coaching me through this, and we're letting go, we're moving things. And then I saw this realm, this beautiful realm, and it was like all these beautiful golden wheat fields and these beautiful horses running free, and then there's these hunters, like these warrior hunters, just like riding these horses, and just like, you know, so stoic and so like in motion, and so like masculine, and you know, nourishing and providing and protecting, and you know, fill in the blank of like all the good masculine traits. And it's like, you know, you want that? I was like, yeah, that's what I want. Like, yeah, that's why I'm here. Like, teach me that. I want to learn that. And it's like, okay, like, go for it. And it's like, I felt like I like took this big leap, and I literally fell flat on my face. And it was just like hilarious. And it was just like, and then I started purging violently again. I'd already purged so much. I'm like, how's there more? How's there more? And it's just like, you know, the plants are laughing at me, and they're like, ha ha ha, you know, like, it's all good, you know, you'll get there. You just keep doing it. This is the fun part. This is the challenge. Challenge yourself. Keep going, you know, don't quit, you know. And normally I felt like I'd had such an aversion to failure, to the point where like my perfectionistic tendencies, which I've been working on for years, you know, they would really hold me back from, you know, really enjoying life and experiencing life. And really, like, I knew that, like, you know, you have to fail, you have to try, you have to keep going. But there's still this like, oh, but I really just actually don't want to fail. Like, I don't want to do that. And it was like, this like it changed it for me. It's like, oh no, like, this can be fun. This is accessible to be fun. It doesn't need to be hard and mean, and you know, it can also be like, oh, like I'm exploring the bounds of my being, the bounds of my body, and you know, pushing the limits, and yeah, like, you know, rest will be there when you need it. It's always there when you need it, you know. And there's a big trust piece. Yeah,
it's so beautiful. I think I love it so much because, first of all, it's funny, and I think people often forget that the plants have one heck of a sense of humor.
Yes.
But I've seen that spark in little boys. I've seen the drive to do, to learn, to play, to fall down and get back up. And it's there in every single one of us. And I think this is why plant medicine and the constructs of inner child work are so compatible, because to emulate, or to not even emulate, get out of that inner child's way within yourself and find the excitement and the play and trying and getting better, without this kind of shame piece of failure, right? And I think that can happen when a society like ours takes the masculine energy into an extreme and say, hey, we want success, we want motivation, we want productivity, and this is what that looks like, and these are the societal expectations of those things. Hold yourself to this standard. And it becomes about where you're going to end up, and the destination and the signifiers of wealth and success, etc. when in reality, it's about falling on your face, getting back up. And it's that journey, that process of striving is the innate, beautiful life force energy of that masculine of let's do it. Let's figure it out. Let's make our way. Let's just be the most human thing that we can, which is this creature full of life, creating, pursuing, adventuring, exploring, falling on our faces, realizing that we got some changes to make and trying again in this collaborative, supportive way instead of that comparative, shameful way where it's like, oh, I'm not at that goal. That person's at that goal. I should be here. I should do this. I'm not all these things. It's like, hey man, you tried again. Let's go again. And that's such a subtle thing, but it's so powerful when you're sitting in it and you have that emotional experience that accompanies those sayings that we're all used to having thrown around us. Like, if you fall, get back up. It's not about the destination. It's about the journey. I feel like most of the time it's like, okay, that's not helpful. Get out of my face. But when you can feel it and experience it and be in it, you're like, oh, I get this now. I feel this now. And this is what this could be. It can be fun. I can let go of those programs and patterns and things and just play around with it.
Oh my gosh, yes. And then like it's funny because it's like I think like having studied so much and learned so much is like it always like seemed like not that I didn't enjoy it, but there's like always been like a seriousness to it. But it's like no, like mastery can be fun. Mastery can be like, like, and it just happens naturally by that process that you just explained, really, right? It doesn't like you can't skip the steps. You can't just be like, oh, no, I want that. And like I'm here, but I want that. It's like, no, like that's the masculine energy. It's very like, no, like you gotta work for it. Man, girl, whatever, whoever, you got to work for it.
It's the process.
Like, and the feminine's very like, I'm just going to have everything come to me. And like, like it's a little bit less.
I have arrived.
Yeah, exactly. I'm here already. Everything just comes to me. I attract all that I need. And it's like with the masculine, it's like, no, like you got to go work for it. And it's like, I think that like what I'm really excited about now is just, I think I probably will go a little bit to the pendulum swing to really play with this masculine energy because I'm excited about it. It feels energizing. It feels vitalizing. It feels good. But I'm excited to see how they balance each other out now.
And that's the gorgeous thing in ceremony is you get a glimpse, you get a taste, you get shaken out, and then you get to really make it your own and integrate it and play with it. But I really want to, I guess, maybe draw a bit of a comparison or hear your experience because you spoke at the beginning about how you've, up until this journey, sat in Canada in particular. What does the jungle setting, what does being in the Peruvian jungle with the carriers of the lineages, the shamans, the family dynamic, what did that add to your specific experience? What does the jungle do to really bring into the medicine space for you? Because I'm sure it's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. I'm like, oh gosh, I feel like the first thing it brought in was like, there's a sense of discomfort. There's a lot of bugs in the jungle. I literally had a tarantula on my back that was the size of my palm at one point, and it was in my tambo in my hut. And there's just this discomfort piece. It just throws you out of your comfort zone. And when you're not in your comfort zone, you really get to see what you're made of. You really get to see. It's like really easy to just like walk the same path every day and do the same thing every day, and like that's easy. But it's hard when you like get thrown out of your comfort zone. To a certain extent, I mean, I felt that like I grew up pretty like when I camped, it was like in a trailer and like, it was like kind of fancy and we always had cabins. So it was like when I started working with the medicine on the land, I had a similar experience. So this was probably a nice like stepwise fashion for me because, not that the wilderness in Canada can be equally as intense. Absolutely. But it's more familiar to me. I had some moments where I was really feeling the connection to the land actually in Canada. But yeah, it's more familiar. Their bugs maybe aren't quite as intense. It was, I really felt like there was just a lot of spirits around. You could tell like on the land we were at, there was like, like at night it would just be like they come out to play and they come to like kind of like, oh, like is she gonna let me in? Like what are you gonna do? And so there's a lot of boundary setting, a lot of clearing. I used a lot of my tools, a lot of mapacho, a lot of agua de Florida. It was but to be honest, I mean, like you could definitely emulate this in Canada. But I think it's like, I really got thrown into like the depths of like all of the medicine. They're really set up over there to do the medicine at its fullest in the center that they have there. So, we did steam bath saunas, we did lots of plant baths. We did sinus medicines and purgatives that went both ways. And, there was people doing eye medicine. There was some feminine medicine as well. What else was there? Oh my goodness. There was just like, lots of different types of medicine that we did to help support. And the team that they had there, there was like a good chunk of people. Like we had to hike in for like, it was a good hour, 15-minute hike up mountains and through like muddy hills and, through fire ant hills. And I got some bites and things and weird spider bites and things like that. And, it was, but they, like these men, they would just carried our stuff for us, which I was really grateful. Cause like, to be honest, like my bag was pretty, like I packed very little, which was a big shift for me. I'm normally like, I have to check a bag and like, I need to be comfortable and bring my stuff. And, I couldn't really. So it was like, they brought up my bag for me, which was great. Cause the hike would have been a lot more challenging with my bag. I might've fallen backwards on some of the hills, to be honest, but, these guys, they run the mountain multiple times. These guys, they just like, they go and they're people that are taking care of everything and cooking the medicine.
Thank you, masculine.
Yes, exactly. Right. It was incredible. I'm just like, wow, I'm in awe of these people. I'm sitting here. I'm like, I'm so friggin' exhausted. I feel like I just, and then I was like I'm so exhausted, but let's let go of more. Let's purge more. Okay. I'm like, I came for the medicine. This is what I came for. So, I think also the fact that it was a journey, it was a trip, it was all a part of the journey, was also just a big piece of it. Is like, I had to take multiple flights to get there, multiple days to get there. And, the hike up was a journey. Everything just felt like it really was like adding intention to the experience, like I'm really showing up, I'm being here, like, and like, even on the moments where there was some nights where I was like, I'm not going to sit for ceremony. Like, I'm just going to, like, you're supposed to go for ceremony, but I'm like, I'm just not going to take anything. And, I was like, you know what? Like when the time came, I was like, nope, I came for the medicine. This is like 2 weeks. Like I can do this, and so there was also like the fact that it was like, a journey to get there was like, no, like I held more reverence for it and really pushed myself as well too. But yeah,
it is such an internal struggle.
Oh gosh. Yeah. It was just moment to moment, honestly, for me. Different for me than like other times.
There's so much, I feel like I say this every time we get into these topics, but there's so much medicine that surrounds the medicine. Mm-hmm. Everything, getting there, the hill, the mirroring that is this existence. When you view it all as ceremony, there is so much feedback, interaction, relationship, and medicine that comes from being aware in those situations. And it is, it's wild. It's wild to witness.
Everything is medicine, like, and like when you get into the space, you realize that it's like, everything is medicine. It's like, so even the fact that like, there were moments where like, I was just like really stuck in that, like, I don't want to be here. I never really, like, I wasn't ever going to leave, and I've heard that experience. A lot of people in the jungles that be like, I'm gonna pack up and go, like, I don't want to be here. And it's a really big deal when you break a dieta, you're breaking a huge commitment. Some of the cultures even talk about like, the plants can kill you. Like it can result in death, they say. Like, I mean, I don't know how much truth there is to that, but like you have to really offend the plants in order to do that. But yeah, like, they really bring up your stuff. And so when you're walking with the plants, they're going to make your medicine really obvious. And sometimes that's challenging because it's like, it slaps you in the face with something big in your life. It's like, oh, like this is an issue. Whereas, a lot of people, it might just be like show up as minor things and they can kind of ignore it. It's like, no, like you can't ignore it. It'll make it big fast. And so that you do work through it.
It's that, it is a cosmic teacher of humility.
Oh my gosh.
You don't know, man, it's such a gift when you can trust that. I don't know what's best all the time. And hanging on to like, I want to do it this way. I think it should be this way. I don't like this. I want, you know what I mean? Like being too stuck into any one thing is where all of the issues can arise. Like we talked about with the resistance. It's like, if you hang on too hard, it's so much easier when you're like, oh man, I don't know what's happening. And you can practice that surrender. And that's what I've come to realize on my path is my work is identifying when I don't know what I'm doing and surrendering as fast as I fucking can. Get out of the fucking way, Melanie, get out of the way. You don't know what's happening. You don't know best. There's so many things that are beyond you. Just trust, get out of your way. And everything is so much easier.
It's true. Yeah. It's hard to though. Like I just, I realized how stubborn I am with that too. Like in this, like it took me a long time to get to it. And it did. It's like, it had to beat me into submission multiple times, literally like, let go, man, let go of this. Like, why are you holding on to this? Like, this is the problem. Like, Oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
okay.
Well, and we
Okay.
talk about that with our physical bodies or with ceremony, right? Like we want to listen to us when the world whispers so that it does not need to scream. Or we want to listen when our body says, hey, I have a tummy ache. I'm telling you, I'm communicating with you so that we don't have to develop stage 4 stomach cancer, you know? There are varying degrees that the universe, that God, that this plant medicine is communicating with us constantly. And for me, realizing that all I can do is get better at honing the way I receive information, become a clearer channel, listen, trust, surrender, move out of my own way in this flow of experiential life that I'm in, has been such a gift. And that came strictly, almost, well, not strictly, but a huge point and a big part of that fell into place with plant medicine because it's so, in a way, externalized. Like it becomes so clear. You can see clearly how your experience becomes very different when you work with and not against, when you go in flow and not try to assert your will. And there is a level of true humility, just like when you're standing next to the ocean and the wind is blowing and the waves are crashing and you realize how small you are. You cannot change the way the ocean roars or the river flows, and you cannot change some of these cosmic dynamics that you are privy to. And it is the teaching of nature, which can be found in ceremony or walking a path in the jungle.
Yeah, exactly. No, and for me, it's funny, like I've had a very strong mind and I always, equate the mind to the masculine, but I've had a very strong mind a lot of my life. And that's a toxic masculine trait is that like ego, that like not being humbled, that like, denying aspects of self because you don't want to admit that like I'm somehow less than, I have not arrived, I'm not the big strong man that, like I want to be or that I put out. And so there's that, like, again, it's like that skipping steps piece really, right? Is like, you can't, it's humbling. And it's like, hey, like, I don't know, I'm a 34-year-old woman. Like, I haven't figured this out yet. I haven't figured out how to live in my body. I haven't figured out masculine energy yet. It's like, but hey, at least I'm not like 60 something and now I haven't figured it out, like, but like, even then, like, like there's always time to, like, there's never too late to start doing the work and to start seeing the truth and to start really like working with what's actually there and not what like you just idealize and want to be there, hope is there, or you've told yourself is there, really, right?
I feel like this shows up in our world so much because we don't live with nature. We don't realize or are simply just not aware of the innate connection that we have with nature, so that we are not humbled by our small piece in this larger system that we are in. We believe truly that we've made this and we've ascended this and we're masters of this. And man, in many ways, forgets that we are a small ant in the vast forest of this planet, and we have something to be humbled by. I also think that whether you're calling this nature, a lot of people will view God and religion and having that figure that is King of Kings above them as that humbling agent in their own personal lives. And I think that it's one of the sticky points of our culture is not having the relationship to the larger whole that we're a part of, because it doesn't give us that perspective of humility. It doesn't give us the fact that, like, hey, I can't just take, I can't just, that disconnection from the whole is the source of so many of our society's ailments, issues, diseases, conflicts. We are not existing in echo chambers. We have accountability and responsibility to things that are beyond us, or at least we should. And if
Yeah.
we're not aware of those things, it's not that there is no response, reaction, or consequence to our actions. We just don't see them. And that doesn't mean that they're not there.
Oh, that's so true. Yeah. It's like one of the reasons why I was really like, I'm still like, since working with the medicine, really intrigued by that like hunter archetype, because it is very like when you're a hunter, like you work with the resources you've got, man. Like you don't have a choice. Like, it's like, you're like, oh, I would love to have some beef for dinner, but it's like, oh no, like we hunted and we got some rabbit for dinner, like it's like you hunt what's there because you have to survive. And that's like survival is alignment. That's aligning to life force energy. And so like, really, really seeing that, but like you said, resourcefully, like on a grander scale, is like when you're in nature and you're really with the environment and you're working with what's immediately around you, you really get to see the impact that you're having. And that's important. And I think that the hunter archetype is really a big piece in like healing the earth, like we need the masculine to step into that archetype again. from that more natural space as well. But I mean, even from, looking at it from, kind of like the entrepreneurial side of things as well too is, and I think people are kind of starting to balance out a little bit with that, with more conscious,
Beautifully,
conscious efforts there for sure.
Well, we have this tendency to disconnect from the balance, right? The whole, and how the world has been balanced for years is the fact that there's areas of this planet and they have fruit all the time. But guess what? I do real good in negative degrees Celsius. I'm real white and I can like survive on just potatoes and I don't have fruit. But a lot of my heritage comes from people who eat just a lot of meat. And this is how the collective whole organism can maintain some semblance of balance, this diversity in the way we can exist and be in relationship with our immediate environment around us. I love the hunter archetype for that. And honestly, I love conservation and the hunting community. Being someone who lives in a rural place in Canada, I know a lot of hunters. I spend a lot of time researching how to hunt. I have my gun license. I've butchered animals myself. And I have not seen the respect, reverence, awareness, interconnectedness, and involvement with the preservation of natural environments, the upkeep, the care, the research funding that I have seen as from when I stepped into those circles. When I'm talking to hunters know so much more about deer than the average Joe advocating for not eating meat on the side of the street with a sign. And
Yes.
I will die on that hill. Like, you want to talk about that deer? Well, what kind of deer is it? Where does it live? Is it mating season? Like, all of these things, that awareness and that intentionality behind it. The hunters of the world have some serious connection with nature, and it's a beautiful archetype to work with that. I can tangent down this one for a long time.
Oh my gosh, yeah, no, it's and it's important, especially I think it's like a big, well, right now, like our food supply is changing drastically. We're printing meat now. That's going to be the future of the world, and like I hope that we get a shift, and that's not the case. But I mean, like, it is what it is, and we have to trust that too. But it's like, yeah, like I mean, there are answers here when we look back to nature, when we look back to like these archetypes, like you talked about, and yeah, I really hope that we can find that, because yeah, like you said, it's when you realize is like, yeah, all these vegan people, like, they don't want to harm the animals, but what they don't realize is, oh, they require a lot of legumes in order to survive, and like, oh, like they cleared a lot of land for that. You lost a lot of animals and habitat for animals and the ecosystem for that as well. So like, energy is neither created nor destroyed. It's always transformed. So at somewhere down the line, something is getting hurt. But yeah, like you said, the best way is just to find that balance with it and to be grateful. Yeah.
Be part of the system that you are in. Become aware of where you live, what food grows near you. Open your eyes to the nature that's around you, because she's there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if you live in a city. She's there. She should be there.
Yeah, it's definitely a big topic for sure.
Well, and it's so it's so holistic and it's so vast, because we're just animals. We are innately no different than the monkey that survives off of eating ants, or the monkey that survives off of eating bananas, or the monkey that survives off of papaya. And I just think everyone should remember that we're all just animals.
Yeah, no, it's definitely been a lesson that I've been learning for years too, is just like, you can't, again, back to that masculine archetype, you can't bypass your biology. You can't skip the steps. Maybe one day, I think I love how Richard Rudd talks about this. Maybe one day we all will evolve past that and not need to eat meat and not need to, and we'll be able to survive on sunlight, maybe even, who knows? I don't know. We're talking, thousands and millions of years down the road, who knows? But like, we can't bypass that. And like you said, like my heritage, I'm from like, Eastern, like Europe, Western Europe, Eastern Europe, Ukraine, Russia, England, like these are places that had winter. These are places that like, we did have to hunt to eat. We didn't have food accessible year round. We had to, do practices where we, would like preserve our vegetables and things like that. And yeah, that is very different. So like, yeah, for somebody who's from India, where like they have access to fruit and legumes and they're abundant year round, yeah, maybe biologically they've more evolved over time to be able to survive on that. Whereas, my body, I've learned it needs some animal protein to feel good. If I eat vegan, I've done it before, my blood sugar does weird things and my microbiome does weird things, and I get a lot of deficiencies. And so, yeah, I mean, you can't bypass that and skip those steps of what your biology is. And yeah, biology is always evolving, but we also have to work with what we've got in the moment right now.
Mm. And I mean, this goes beyond food. This ties into the differences between sitting in ceremony in the Peruvian jungle or creating and sitting in ceremony in the forests of British Columbia, because these energetics, this connection, plant medicine is what can be a big catalyst for people to become aware of these dynamics. And I think the beauty, like you said, there's ways to emulate the jungle, and you are working with and consuming and bringing into your body a medicine from the Peruvian jungle. And there is medicine wherever you're from, right?
Yeah.
If you're in Mexico, where Alana is, there's indigenous local medicine there. British Columbia, Canada, loaded. These forests are loaded with medicine. And to acknowledge that working with plant spirits, like, they're aware of the connectivity, they're aware of collaborators, allies, and the unique energetics and the way we connect with the land that we are on shapes the experiences that we have in ceremony. The land spirits calling in year after year, even, right? If this sanctuary in Peru has been there for multiple years, multiple lineages, building that relationship with the land, communing, cultivating. Canada is relatively young, opposed to traditional indigenous cultures that have been there for generations, right? A lot of people who practice or live in Canada are new here. They're colonizers. They've come overseas. Canada as a country as a whole is quite young. There's indigenous cultures here that have deep sacred medicine and have a connection to the land that mirrors and doesn't mirror or is comparable or parallel to that deep lineage culture that we can find in the Peruvian jungle.
Absolutely.
And I like to bring this to people's attention specifically because there's a lot of glamorization, right, of going to Peru and needing to do medicine there. And there is potent medicine in that, and I won't take away from the fact that it's a very unique experience. But if this is not something that's like financially viable for someone, or it's not where you're at, or it's a bit too much of a leap for you, or you maybe can't hike into a jungle, or etc., right? Whatever it is, I'm sure there's a long list, but whatever it is like, I would really encourage you to find the medicine, find the nature, find the connection that you have on the land where you are. The land, there are land spirits, plant spirits, medicine, beautiful lineages and cultures to connect with anywhere you are. And I think being a society now that has the ability to travel and to connect multiple lineages, to have different plant medicines working in accompaniment with others that have not crossed paths before, there's going to be a bit of a blending, emerging landscape to navigate together as we see the magic unfold and watch how things progress, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I love that you brought that up, because it is like we have some beautiful indigenous cultures in Canada that, that hold great wisdom. And unfortunately, like, because, they've been colonized and we were colonizers, and what they've been through is like they're not as open to sharing. But I do see a huge shift also in the indigenous cultures. There are those that are open to sharing and opening up the medicine and really and teaching and trying to keep these traditions alive, because they're important not just for those people, but for the world, for everybody. And we can do dieta with plants in the forests in British Columbia. And I've got a list there too of like of those plants that I would like to do. And yeah, you can enter into this, you can do basil, you can do nettles, you can do rose, you can do willow, you can do, any of these plants you can do dieta with. And so like, I'm excited to lean into that too, is to learn some of those plants and even here in Mexico as well. I'm in the desert, so it's not jungle here. There's also beautiful plants here to do too. So, I mean, we should lean into these things because they hold a lot of wisdom and a lot of teachings that go beyond just physical healing like we normally think of when we think of phytotherapy or botanical medicine.
And I think that's the, evolution, the integration of plant medicine as a whole. There's been a lot of like criticism, right? And not even criticism, but conversation on the online space because it's new, because things need to be discussed, because lines are being blurred and some believe they should and some believe they shouldn't. But the fact of the matter is there's a lot of people who are saying that the plants need to travel, that the humans need plant medicine right now as a lot as an aid or an antidote or a companion or an ally. And whether some people think that that should occur or not, it's happening, right? There's people all over the world who are aware of ayahuasca, grandmother medicine. She's told hundreds of different people within ceremony the need for healing, the need for awareness, the call back to nature, the call back to connection. And I think it's occurring. I think it's a good thing that it's occurring, but it's definitely going to be a dynamic area. And I just urge people to, of course, listen to their fellow journeyers, consult, be respectful of the indigenous cultures and those who hold those lineages of, just powerful medicine. Of course, have respect, of course, honor it. And also, let's work together, I guess, and do our best to listen to what they're all saying.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And like it doesn't have to be ayahuasca, like if we have mushrooms, psilocybin growing in Canada, wild. We've got cannabis growing, like that's naturally occurring and easily accessible. There's other plants that will open you up to different dimensions and they have different teachings as well too. But you can also use them just as a place to open up to the other realms and connect to plants through dieta and do ceremony with them that way. And that's why at Alchemia, we advocate for that is, use what's accessible to you as well too, if everybody in the world did ayahuasca, the jungle would probably not be in a very good state. That would be very sustainable in the long term, There's certain plants and trees in the jungle that are
balance.
Yeah, there's even Palo Santo. We look at Palo Santo, from the jungle, and it's a
white sage
white sage being over harvested, really, right? So it's like use what's available and trust that, yeah, it'd be cool to organize some plant walks and go check out and get to know the plants like we did in the jungle. Is really get to know oh, this is what it's good for physically, this is what it teaches you spiritually, and be able to map that out. I think that would be really, really cool.
I love the progression. I love the coming home to the fact that your food is your medicine, the forest is your medicine, people are your medicine. And you see it in traditional cultures, indigenous cultures, Ayurvedic medicine, traditional Chinese medicine. It is worldwide. There are these, people call them or wisdom traditions or something like that. But it's just, you take all the names and all the different looking faces out of the equation. And it's just the fact that humans are supposed to be in deep communion with nature. There is relationship here, and we've lost that awareness. And gaining that awareness back, I think, is what this movement has so been. I think something I guess I want to touch on as well before we kind of wrap up this episode would be a bit about your integration. If you have any specific plans, maybe some things that you're changing. We've already alluded to the fact that coming back into your regular life, your friends, your family, your relationships, your jobs, it brings those patterns back to the surface, right? And it's such a focus with Alchemia's work. We always say that integration is the work. Ceremony is relatively easy compared to walking the walk and living the vibrational shifts and pattern alterations. So I would love to hear, just to round out our episode, how your body's feeling being home. What are you doing to respect and honor, to shift and change? How much space, how much time, any hot tips, any weird takeaways? Has your life fallen apart? I think that's a big concern for a lot of people when they go to the Peruvian jungle and they're like, I'm not going to be the same.
Yeah, no, it's a really good question. Yeah, so when I first came home, I was feeling really energized and protected on the way home. Normally after plant medicine ceremony, I feel really open and sensitive. So that was another piece that Ayahuasca brings in. It's very protective, protecting from negative energy, masculine energy, does that as well too. So it's, I felt pretty good coming home, but I did crash real hard when I came home. I had a bath and I fell asleep, and my husband came in and he's like, are you you look like you're high right now. Are you okay? And I'm like, man, no, I feel like I have psychosis. I'm so tired. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't move. And it was
I need a nap.
3:00 in the afternoon. And I'm he's I'm out like a light drilling on the pillow. So yeah, it was a bunch of days of that. So in my mind, I was I'm going to be the warrior, and I'm going to dive in, and I'm going to challenge my body physically and get back to working out more regularly and approaching it more from that like fun space and you know, aligning more to my work and whatnot as well too. But I really did need it. Like, I think it was about a solid week, you know, it was a week on Tuesday. So I needed that solid week before I felt like, okay, I have enough energy to start doing that. So now, yeah, I'm doing those things. I'm, you know, really sticking with my body and realizing and accepting that like it's a process as well too. You know, like I've been wanting to escape my body for so long, at some point feeling like, oh, I might arrive, but like, no, like this is a lifelong thing, and it's the little steps. It's like, again, those steps you can't skip. So I'm just really grounding into the moment and listening to my body and giving it what it needs, and moving it more, having more fun. The Icaros are really big as well too. So the Icaros are the songs that are sung in ceremony, and it's the prayers, the way that we communicate as shamans or as participants with the plant realm. They love to dance, they love to play, they love to sing, they love joy, they love beat, they love music, you know. So that's like to reconnect is great, to bring in the Icaros. And of course, I have some totems and some anchors from my ceremony. With any dieta that I do, I always like to get a pipe so I can connect to the plant. So, you know, I smoke, add some mapacho. It's not inhaled, it's just puff, but you know, that allows me to connect deeper into the realms with the plant. And then with the fact that I did a like teaching dieta, you know, there's a post period about 20 to 30 days for this specific plant. Most are about 2 weeks. This one's a little longer. I don't know why. I didn't ask why, actually. I should have, but it's longer for some reason. And so like I have to be really mindful of my food. So there's no red meat, no pork, some random other things. Those are kind of the biggest ones. No sex for the week after. There's a bunch of things that you kind of have to honor. In that, like, you know, you've opened your body up, you've changed your vibration, and so you need to like give it time to integrate. But yeah, so for me, it's just like an ongoing process, you know, just taking my time with it and enjoying it. And I am craving red meat. Like, I feel like I need some good vitamins and nutrients right now, because the chicken and fish just doesn't seem to really quite hit the spot the same. But you know, that will come with time as well. Yeah, what else would I be doing for post-dieta? Yeah, so anytime that I've like crossed a dieta, so again, like I'm paying attention to dream space, writing down dreams still. And I'm having a lot of dreams about being in ceremony and being with people in ceremony since coming home. And, you know, gleaning the warning signs. There's certain things that come up in dreams, like a breaking a glass, or like is it one of the biggest ones? Breaking a glass usually means that like, oh, like you've broken your dieta, which means that like, oh, like you've offended the plant in some way. Doesn't mean that like it's like a bad thing, like it's not a good thing necessarily, but it's like, you know, it's just like, oh, it's a call to realignment. And so with
something's
that,
out of alignment.
Yeah, something's out of alignment. Let's bring back to alignment. You know, if you just kept ignoring those signs, then, you know, the plants might get really mad, and then you might have the plant abandon you and your life can fall into shambles, they say. But it's, you know, they're pretty lenient. Like, you know, it's got to be like, you know, like 20 times before you like, you know, completely ignoring everything, all the signs, and it gets progressively worse each time before that kind of thing can happen. But I did bring back some of the medicine. So I can do a 3-day fast where I take the medicine kind of like I did at the start of the dieta itself. And I have brought back some purgatives, some sangre de grado, so I can also like clear myself and realign in that way as well too. So I can kind of like, they call it like replenishing your dieta. If it gets really bad, then I would schedule a call with the shaman that held space, Wesha Metza, Don Marcos. And yeah, he can also like utilize his connections with the plants to realign if it gets really intense and something's really out of whack as well too. So yeah, that's kind of the post-dieta process, I guess.
Well, I'm so proud of you, and I love you.
Thanks. I love you too.
I love hearing your shares, and it's just such a pleasure to journey with individuals who are also on this path, and it's such a big part of our lives. You know, it's something that touches every part of our lives, and it's so it's hard work, and I think people deserve a pat on the back when they go through and do all of that work, all just to be of better service to themselves and to others. And it's such a sacred journey that is so full of everything.
Yeah, I feel that too. It's beautiful. And I'm so excited to connect this summer and be in Canada and connect with the medicine. And it's so funny because like coming home, it's like, you know, we've got friends' birthdays and they're going out to like to to restaurants and stuff, and I'm like, the things that I'm really most excited about is like coming home and hanging out with you and being in the, like you said, being in the forest and frolicking and connecting with plant medicine. I'm like that's fun for me.
I know. You definitely, it takes a swerve. It's interesting to be in the world and not of it. I think, and I mean, don't get us wrong, everybody who's listening. Alana and I also enjoy restaurants. I like margaritas, but it's just it's the dance. It's the ever dance of enjoying and pleasure and play and reforming the fabrics of reality and having our bodies have time and room to shift and adapt. And it's definitely a big yes to all that is the life experience. And it can be so draining and tiring when you're doing it alone. And I mean, we've talked so often in this podcast, and one of the main intentions around creating Alchemia was having that space of doing these things together. The hunter does not hunt alone. The gatherer does not gather alone. We don't raise babies alone. We are connected. We are human. We have this heart of service to others. And it's so beautiful to see the transformation and evolution of the people we journey with. And it's just such an honor to be in that space with you. And I'm so happy for you that your journey was of service for you, and it sounded like a beautiful trip to the jungle, and I'm sure there is so much more we could have covered. I mean, I tried my darndest to avoid the tangents, but
Hey, if anybody has questions, you can comment below. Hey, we'll do our best. Maybe we'll answer them in a future high tea episode or something.
yeah, no doubt. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing with us. I hope that this is of service for those who are maybe contemplating sitting in ceremony, or if someone's just out there searching, researching, asking questions. Maybe you're inspired. So happy that you took the time to be here and listen to this last episode of The Sacred Seed for our pilot season. I hope this is some foreshadowing from all of the good, juicy stuff that will be coming our way in the next season. Like I said at the beginning of the podcast, The Sacred Seat is going on hiatus for the months of summer. We're going to be probably 2 months, 3 months, maybe holding space, sitting in ceremony, communing with the plant spirits, and just connecting with community, resonating and aligning so that we can come back excited, charged up, in flow, all the good things, and be of service and continue to create a beautiful space with you all here. So, Alana, anything else we need to cover before we sign off for a few months? Of course, our socials are all there. You can reach out to us. We're still present, but
no, I think that kind of wraps it up. It's been fun. I really enjoyed doing these podcasts, and I am grateful to all who have chosen to follow along this path, even if it is just a light curiosity.
Mm-hmm. Well, we will be back shortly. Thank you all for joining us for the last episode of the Sacred Seat podcast for the pilot season, and we will see you soon. Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.